Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, lax rats alike, welcome back to another episode of the Crease Dive. Today is Friday, August 16th. Maybe it could be Thursday, August 15th. Who knows when this is going to come out? It's crazy times we're living in with all this technology. You never know where we're actually at in the timeline. You could actually be listening to this. Who knows what day it is for you?
Labor Day weekend.
Crazy. If you're listening to this on Labor Day weekend, what a story we have for you coming up here, because you were probably in a coma for a while and you are you're waking up just in time for the PLL quarterfinals, right? So you're kind of getting yourself back into the swing of things, seeing how the rest of the season went. You woke up Labor Day weekend after a brutal 3-year coma. So congratulations to you on getting out of your coma. We're happy for you. We're happy for your family. I know that they've been waiting for this moment this whole time. I'm Jordie from Barstool. With me, as always, we've got Doogs, we've got Nest. The boys are back together, and we are heading into the final week of the PLL regular season. What a summer it's been. Boys, how are we feeling right now?
Nestler, go.
All right. It's my turn, baby. I feel great. Listen, it's been a long, long year lacrosse, and I can't be happier that we're going into playoffs soon. I'm excited. You know, we've sort of seen what the playoffs were going to look like the last few weeks. There hasn't been a ton at stake. A lot of locked-in playoff teams, a lot of teams clinching. So I'm just excited. You know, life's good. It's summertime, and I'm heading down to Avalon this weekend. So that's a dub for Nestler. Big dub for Nestler.
If you are listening to this on Labor Day weekend, Nestler is currently in jail after a weekend full of debauchery in Avalon. So, just make sure to give him a collect call and tell him that you're thinking about him. Dukes, how you feeling?
Good, great, grand, wonderful. Denver came and went. I thought the crowd was fucking popping. It's that time of the PLL season. It's every year where it's August, and I know old head Jordie over there knows the struggle. I know Kyle Harrison fell asleep watching the game. Now a dad of one. I'd be surprised if he made it through the entire whatever that second game was. I can't even think right now. Redwoods game, but the 10:30 start time, they can get to you.
I'll give you. So I didn't make it through the entire. I didn't make it through a lick of that one. Here's the thing, a 10:30 start for any, like I love lacrosse. You guys know, we wouldn't be, this is what, season 7 of the Crease. I've been podcasting about this goddamn sport for 7 years of my life. I've been playing it for 20 years of my life. I love this sport more than anything. I am not staying awake for a 10:30 start for a lacrosse game. I'm hardly doing that for you. You give me an NFL game at 10:30 and I'll stay awake for kickoff. I'll fire up a couple pots of coffee. I'll stay awake for, because it's the NFL, and football fandom in America is a mental illness, but I'll still be asleep by the end of the first quarter. For a lacrosse game, you are not getting me to stay awake beyond. I mean, really, you give me a 9:30 start and I'm pissed off. I'm going to stay awake for the start of the game out of principle, but I'm not making it through the end of it, and I'm going to be really pissed off. So, just fuck time zones. Really fuck anywhere just west of the East Coast. Dukes, I know that you probably love Vegas right now after going to see the Dead and the Sphere. But yeah, you got the shirt off. Whatever. They got to figure out something to do with time zones. Like, listen, you guys get they just have to figure out a way to make it happen, living on our time. And I get that there's always a conversation to be had about how Central Time is actually better than Eastern Standard. I'm willing to listen to the conversation, but still, we need just one time zone, because I can't be having lacrosse games start at 10:30. Can't have it, won't have it.
Can't have it. I mean, the 10:30 Friday night game was tough. I mean, really quick. I mean, the Webb's Outlaws game to kind of kick off the Denver homecoming. First off, the Denver crowd looked insane. But I think the biggest storyline of the weekend with the Whips is just how well they've done. I think the big discussion this year between this podcast, I just think lacrosse fans in the past 2 years has just been the face-off, obviously, right? And how do you really attack the 32-second shot clock when you win a possession? You want to know how? The Whips figured it out. The Whips they completely figured out how to construct your roster for the 32-second shot clock. Ryan Conrad had a great first game for the Whips. But even more, like TJ Malone, the Penn State kid. I mean, I know that we all thought that when he got drafted, like, wow, what a steal. I know we all thought very highly of him, but second in points in the PLL right now, the guy's a fucking monster.
The thing I love, like, not only it's like, what is he? He's got 19 goals, 18 assists, like something like that, where it's like so just evenly distributed. Like, you can get a guy who gets like so, it's such a short season. Like, you only have so many. Like, there you can have a guy who gets hot one game and goes off for like 5 goals, and all of a sudden he like shoots up in the. But to do it like so evenly with goals and assists, like that's where I'm like, all right, TJ, like, not only was he a steal for this draft, but like such a perfect fit for that roster.
19 and 18.
We talking rookie?
Yeah.
We talking rookie of the year? Do you think he's got it? Do you think it's not going to be him? It's really only him or O'Neal, in my opinion, at this point. I think Shelley's kind of tailed off points-wise.
Yeah, he's kind of tailed off points-wise. He hasn't played – I mean, he's played 2 fewer games, I think, right now than Malone, right? Because he had that second game of the Atlas homecoming where he took that one off, and then – so he still has his 9th game coming up this weekend. Yeah. So at the end, yeah, when all is said and done, he'll have 1 fewer game played than TJ Malone. I think he's probably like he's probably somewhere around he's probably like around like 10, 9, yeah, it's a 10-point difference. I mean, listen, you're playing on an attack line with Xander Dixon and Jeff Teat. You can get 10 points if you really want to. If you want to go fucking nuts this weekend, I don't know if the Atlas are going to do that. But he can have enough points to. I mean, it's interesting. I think the season started and everyone's like, all right, rookie of the year. Like, is it going to be Brennan? Is it going to be Shelley? And all of a sudden, TJ Malone kicks down the door. Harvard School kid, shout out Philly product, kicks down the door and says, everyone shut the fuck up. Philly lacrosse runs the world.
Top 2. I mean, the 2 players, one is Jeff Teat, then 2, 3 Philly kids. So I'll give you that. But yeah, I mean, you can't really say, I don't want to say Shelley like kind of just disappeared or something. Like, again, I think that like when you like Jordie said, those 2 games are crucial. Those are like big in a rookie of the year race. So I don't think he's really in serious consideration, but he should be in talks. And if that makes any sense, consideration would be like, all right, like they have an argument to win, but I think that in the talks, Shelley deserves his flowers for how well he's played when on the field.
That's fair.
What I'll say right now is I don't really know how the voting for that happen. Is it does the league just kind of decide? Does the media vote on it? Like
media.
So I don't really. Yeah. So if it's me and like, you know, and listen, as a guy who
I'm a voter.
Are you a voter?
I'm a voter.
Oh wait, no. You know what? I voted before. I'm a voter too. I voted before. All right, I'm gonna decline my vote this year I can't be on. I got a motorcycle drive.
I'm not sure if I could disclose that I'm a voter, but I'm a voter.
Okay, well, no. Now that you say it, I remember voting too. But I'm gonna just not put in my vote. I can't be on a podcast saying that I'm not staying awake for 10:30 games and then still be a voter for these things. So I'm gonna happily decline my vote this year. But I would like to say, so the way I remember it is you just pick one guy. So I would like to, I would like to see guys like rank 1, 2, 3, right, and kind of see where those
the points. I hate the points. I hate the point system because then like it's like sometimes like you know the consensus number 2 can somehow fucking win. So I don't like that. But you
think you just get it's just one guy, like that's it.
So here's how I would vote. If I was a voter, this is how I'd vote. I think TJ Malone is the product of being a very good lacrosse player in a very good situation as well. Like you could be in a lot worse of a situation if you're a rookie attackman when you're the initiator on the offense and you're feeding off of the guy that has the most single goals in Zed Williams, who's an MVP, and another MVP on Matt Rambo. So like that's not a bad situation to be in. You always have to be so talented to put up 37 points as a rookie, and I'm not taking anything away from him. But when I look at what Brennan O'Neal does, and, you know, for all the pressure that he's had this year, to come out of the box the first game, to put up 8 points, to disappear against the Atlas, and then to put his nuts on the table every single time he touches the crossing and gets on the field now, I tweeted out that, like, the Brennan O'Neal being the best player in the world conversation has got to end now. I think that like slowly he is becoming very much in the consideration. I don't think it right now, but I think again in that talks as a dominant lacrosse player, I think he's right there. And what he's been able to do to make the last place team into one of the best teams like I've been so wrong about the Outlaws. I think
I mean, to be fair, like if you replace the Outlaws and the Water Dogs and you flip the conferences that they're in, right? The Outlaws aren't in the playoffs, but they've done enough to stay in the conversation in the Western Conference. Which
wait, really?
Wait, what?
No, Jordie, you're thinking of it wrong.
What?
You're thinking of it wrong. It's not by it's the best team in the East. Best team in the West, they get the buys. And then from then on out, it's overall.
Oh. Well, yes, either way, I thought that the bottom team from each conference doesn't make the playoffs.
That's what I thought.
No.
Are you sure, Doogs?
I
think that's how they seed them the way you're saying. But I think Jordie's right about how they get in. And how they seed them once they're in, it's not by.
No, you guys are wrong.
You're
we looked it up on it.
Listen, I'm fine with being wrong. I'm not fine with being. We're recording this on August 14th, and I bet if you asked a lot of different people who follow lacrosse, I don't know how many people could tell you right now for sure how they're doing these playoffs.
Eastern and Western Conference winners. Here, I'll pull it up.
Yep.
This is good journalism. We're breaking it down here.
Eastern and Western Conference winners receive a first-round bye with the best ranked in the league standings to take the number 1 seed, and the other conference champions take the number 2 seed. Number 3 to 6 will be determined by the overall league standings of the remaining teams, regardless of conference.
Okay. All right. So, All right. Well, so then, yeah, I mean, I guess that makes really everything coming up here interesting.
It's pretty significant. Like, I think
you know what? That is like, and I guess I'm sorry to anyone listening right now who like already knew that and is like, what the fuck, Jordie? Like, why are you talking about this thing that like everybody knows? I think that is just such an idiotic way to do it. Like, I think like if you're gonna have East and West, like that, you get the top 2 teams get the bye, 2 and 3 play each other in the quarterfinals of each conference. You get a conference final. Like there's no conference championship after like every other sport has that.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate. I
hate devil's advocate. Play it.
I have to play devil's advocate here. I think this is the first time. Like you had to eventually do the conferences in like East and West, which I don't think there's a perfect or imperfect way to do it with. I don't think there's a perfect way to do it with the 8 teams. Now, also, Jordie, we've both been on the same page with this in years past, where like we said like, oh, so only 1 team gets out of the playoffs. Now we have 2 teams out of the playoffs, which is what most lacrosse fans were asking for. So this really was the only way to do it. Again, like there are smarter people out there that are running this league that have thought of every single scenario top to bottom.
You know what, Doogs? I don't know if there is though. I don't know if there is, and you know what? I don't really know.
Tom Brady over there.
I don't know, man. Like I think that the issue is that maybe some people are like a little too smart and they're just kind of overcomplicating. Where it should be like, listen, the incentive to win your conference is you get the bye in the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
If you want to get into the playoffs, just don't come in last in your conference.
Yeah.
Now granted, that's kind of going to be the way that this plays out anyway, as long as, you know, the Redwoods don't overcome this ridiculous 22 goal differential deficit that they're, you know, it's going to end up playing out that way where the bottom 2 teams in each conference are the 2 teams that get left out. You know, it's not like one team's getting all 4 teams into the playoffs and the other conference is getting just 2. But I think incentivize winning your conference. I think that they did that, right? You get the bye, but then also incentivize not coming in last in your conference.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna play more conference games, you have to do it the way Jordie's saying, because it still makes sense. It's the same amount of team. Like the playoff bracket's gonna look the same, but why schedule like inter-conference games and play teams in your conference twice if it really doesn't matter for the play like that? Like if 4 teams got in from one side and 2 from the other, I think that'd be like a weird deal.
But that could happen.
This is the first year they've done it.
But it can happen.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, neither do I. I'm with Ness.
I'm
I don't know
sure.
how that makes me feel.
Yeah. I don't like that 2 teams from one conference can get left out when they don't even get the chance to play the other conference twice. That's my like. If I got left out by a conference where everyone gets in, it's like, yeah, well, like we only got to play them once. Like we got another shot at it. It might have been different. Instead, we were stuck playing our conference, and we just kept beating each other.
And I think that that's always like such like a fun conversation to be had, because like it happens all the time in sports where like some conference, like one conference is just so much stronger than the other. Like it happens all the time. And then the conversation about that, like leading into the playoffs is like, oh, well, you know, like the Western Conference was just, you know, a cupcake league the whole time. And meanwhile, it's a gauntlet in the East. And then you're thinking about, okay, like is the East, like, are they going to have to fight to the death throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs? And then you like whoever gets out of there is basically like bludgeoned and bloodied, finally making their way into the championship. And the Western Conference is maybe a little bit of an easier path. And like it was the East better, but you know, so that I don't know. It just, that to me is like something about this right now, something about the way that this playoffs is happening. It's just smelling to me, and it makes me sick. It makes me want to throw up. Something about it, and I know it's not even close to being it, but something about this just reeks of like European football. Like it just seems like something that European football would do. I don't know if they do it like this in European football, but it just seems like everything that happens in European football is so foreign to how we do sports in America. And it's just that this way that they are doing the playoffs kind of falls more on that side.
I think that's a good point. I think that's
I think that I just think that this is a league with eight teams, and if I think the biggest culprit then is just like, then don't do East and West if that's the biggest problem.
Yes, I agree with that.
I do think that like they had to start doing. I guess I'm looking at it from like the bigger picture of expansion, where at some point they're gonna have to do East West. And I think
all these things that you're saying, I agree with. Like, I think at some point you have to have more teams and you have to do East. Like, it's just like, but if you were gonna make the jump to East West right now, then just do the playoffs that way, because like eventually, what's gonna happen? They're gonna have more teams. They're gonna do East West, and then you have to redo the playoffs, and you know that's going to be another 18 minutes of us on a podcast one day just like bitching about it, and then it'll be over with, and then everyone's like, all right, cool, that's the way it is now. If we change the playoff format, like people change playoff formats all the time. I don't know, it's just
they've been changed
to me.
Yeah, they just changed.
I don't like change. I don't like change.
They used to have like the losers bracket where you didn't have to have remember the first year.
Well, so that was good because you had anti-tanking. You had to win the losers bracket to get the first overall pick. And I like that because that goes against the pussification of America, where people can just tank. And listen, as a Sixers fan, this is maybe pot calling the kettle, but I don't think that losers in life should get rewarded as much as they do in professional sports.
Not to be that guy, Jordie, to kick you while you're down talking about
God damn it.
The Water Dog just did the same thing. They tanked for CJ Kirst. I mean, you lose 5 one-goal games in the season. That smells a little fishy to me, but congratulations to you. I know some people are saying it might be Kavanaugh, but I want to congratulate you in camera. I'm getting CJ Kirst to your Philadelphia Water Dogs. So congratulations. Philadelphia's done it again.
Nah, we're getting Joey Spallina to leave early.
After he transfers.
Yeah. All right, cool. That was a great conversation. Again, anyone who knew what the playoff format is like probably hated that discussion. They're like, you guys are idiots. But all right, that does make this final week though a little bit more intriguing in my eyes, just because there is so much the situation between 4, 5, and 6 is so volatile right now.
One thing I really want to call out really quick about the playoff thing is I'm looking into the future. Next week's a bye, then the playoffs start. So like if you are doing like conference championships, maybe they're setting it up for the weekend after this to be a conference championship week. That's a little.
Cool. A lot of buys. I'm not one to nitpick the scheduling, but I mean there was a bye, there was an All-Star break, and now another bye before the playoffs. Let the boys play. They're in a groove. I mean, let them play. That's all I got to say.
I bet you if you ask the players, they want to buy.
Or just have your season end 3 weeks earlier, or 2 weeks.
How nice would it be if the playoffs started the weekend after Salt Lake? You get the conference because the quarterfinals are going to be on Labor Day in Boston. So if you do conference championship on Labor Day, right? So like, it's Labor Day. You have something a little bit more. There's a little more oomph to a conference championship as opposed to just a quarterfinal game, and then you can wrap things up with the championship. The follow, yeah. But it is.
I think I will say this. I've been on the record with this, and sorry, but like the Labor Day thing, I've been on record. It should be quarterfinals next week, semifinals Saturday of Labor Day weekend, and Monday championship. Because it'd be like, we don't want them to play 2 times in a weekend. Well, now you do that.
Yeah.
You legitimately do that. So, like, it should be that. Like, you should have, and I get it, like, you have to start Memorial Day weekend because you have coaches and just the way that lacrosse is. Reality is players don't make enough to just do lacrosse. So you can't, like, dip into the NLL season also because a lot of your players come from there. Can't dip into the college lacrosse season that much. So start Memorial Day weekend or start the weekend after Memorial Day weekend. Go to Labor Day and just do the fucking semis and the championship the same weekend.
Yeah.
Make a weekend out of it.
I love that idea. Especially now, I mean, that's a Doogs top tier point right there, bringing up that they do play 2 games in a weekend, and you're giving them a day in between the games. So it's even, and that's also ties into the same way they do the tournament and the NCAAs. Like I love that idea.
Bro, you talk, and again, I will trust the decision makers at like the PLL, but like you talk about like wanting to be like the circus where like, hey, the PLL's in town, like everyone from Minnesota, come out to Minnesota and watch us play. Like, hey, we're in Salt Lake, everybody come out, watch your hometown team twice a weekend. Nothing screams circus for lacrosse more than having a weekend to take it over. Like if you just benchmark the summer as like, this is our goddamn sport.
Yeah, and it's perfect. Like football is the biggest Goliath in the entire country. There's no need to even try to go in there when, like you said, there's a way to do it without it. Worst case scenario, you miss a couple guys, like you said. If you do start Memorial Day weekend, you miss a handful of guys who are in the championships and whatnot, like the Ryder Garnsies this year. But I'm sure at the end of the day, it works out better to miss one guy week 1 than to dip in 2 weeks into the NFL season or a week, whatever it is.
Hold on.
And then on that Sunday, you just do some sort of a camp or clinic with all the players that lost on the Friday semifinal. All of a sudden, you get 1 million kids show up. You make all your money right then and there.
We might need to put a call in because this seems too good to be true.
I get like scheduling wise with like ESPN for college football, whatever. This year is like a unique scenario where like week 1 college football is Saturday of Labor Day weekend. That like never happens, right? So just say you have to put in the 2 semifinals on that like you play like 11-1 or like 12.
We went Friday, Sunday. Oh no, we want to play Monday.
No, I'm just saying, like even if it's just like a year like this, whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of get stuck in the middle of a college football Saturday. That sucks. But a lot of those games week 1 kind of suck as well. So like the diehard lacrosse fans will still tune in to the semifinals. And then Labor Day Monday, what's the schedule? There's 1 college football game at 7:30. So you have the whole Labor Day Monday for your game, for your benchmark for eyes to be on ABC.
I agree.
Or even fucking just do it leading up to like an ABC game, like for college football. It's just like whatever.
I think it'd be great. I personally think it's harder to get people out to the championship Sunday on an NFL Sunday than because at least Saturday college football, people are going to be out no matter what. Like going out on a Sunday, so many people are like, am I really going to, like, as far as getting people to the game? It's like, bro, I can't imagine what a weekend would look like with the doubleheader like you just gave. So I think that'd be sweet.
I agree. Whatever. That's talking playoffs. And we have this debate all the time. I don't know how many times the PLL has to hear that like the championship being on the first weekend of NFL isn't like the greatest idea, but I know that like they probably don't want it either. So
Even deeper this year.
What?
It's week 2 this year.
Yeah, but that's like the Labor Day thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think Labor Day fell in like a unique position this year.
Yeah.
Wow. Real quick. So that was talking playoffs. I just real quick.
That was talking playoffs.
That was talking playoffs. I just want to. So we did that. We're fired up about the game, right? But at the same time, there is currently a Canadian senior box going on, and I just want to bring it up a new segment. It's one that we've probably, maybe it's not really new. It's a segment that maybe we haven't given a proper name to yet. But this is called the Shut the Fuck Up Box Lacrosse Fans of the Week. So I don't know if you boys saw this one yet or not on the artist formerly known as Twitter, X, but this at Road to Minto 24, Minto Cup 24, tweeted out, Canadian box lacrosse makes all other forms of lacrosse look like hopscotch. This is one of the very best times of the calendar in the entire sports world. If you are anywhere close to these arenas, get out and take it in. Best $10 you'll ever spend. Did you guys see this one coming across your Twitter feeds?
Yeah,
this week?
I saw it come by. I didn't want to get into the mud with the box lacrosse world, so I kind of.
Wait, who said this? Road to Minto 24?
Yeah, so I'm assuming that. So bio is commentary, updates, and coverage of the journey so through the Minto Cup. So not actually associated with the Minto Cup. I'm sure everyone is actually associated with that. Great people, but listen, you want to know who doesn't give a fuck about possibly having to go up against the NFL or possibly go up against anything else in the world? Canadian box lacrosse fans, man, because they don't listen, one of the very best times of the calendar in the entire sports world. Listen, I don't, Minto Cup is sick. And maybe I also said that this was Canadian seniors, but that's junior box. But either way, Minto Cup is sick. It's got to be awesome to play for that thing. It's got to be great for fans who are, but yeah, there we go. I
think that's the funniest thing.
It's just insane that every single time that these bozos have to talk about their game, all they have to do is just shit on any time that they bring up box lacrosse. It's always prefaced by fuck field lacrosse. Here's why box is better.
I don't think I've ever mentioned box lacrosse when referring to field. I don't think it's ever crossed my mind. Yo, this is so much better than box. People need to know that field is one. I'm just lacrosse is lacrosse, but it's so funny that you say this is the best form of lacrosse. Buddy, just shut the fuck up and enjoy your sport. Enjoy it. I'll give them this. It looks electric. Don't get me wrong. They're bumping up there in Canada. The clips are awesome. But at the same time, it's just enjoy it. Just take your W. Don't turn it into an L.
Some great lacrosse mind one time said everybody has to go to the box lacrosse games in Canada. Those arenas get packed and there's 500 person arenas. They always get packed because the games aren't on TV. So they literally have no choice but to go if they want to watch.
Yeah. Or they can read about it in the paper, I guess, the next day. But no, it's crazy though. You watch the clips that come out of there. You show me. I'll sit on my ass. I will watch a full hour's worth of Trey Deer highlights. Show me that time and time. But it's just people at Road to Minto 24 who make me not want to ever give a fuck about it.
That fucking loser Michael Caravalis that I see on my timeline. I got into my spats with Adam Levy. He's fine. I think he's a professional. He doesn't even piss me off anymore. I hate people. He doesn't hold he'll talk about the PLL without shitting on it as well. I don't care about people that have different opinions about it, but the box people get so mad with the way that the PLL markets themselves. It's do you notice that if you ask the comment, if you just asked any average person, I would say in the Barstool office or just even on the street, it's do you know what the NLL is? It's gonna be no. Do you know what the PLL is? They're gonna be yeah. Maybe they just don't know either.
Or if you
But, like,
ask a more
Yeah,
professional,
I would say majority wouldn't know either.
Right,
More would
correct.
know PLL.
if you just
Right.
said
And it's like that's the credit to their marketing. And like you don't have to be mad because like the PLL decides to market themselves differently than the NLL. And if you don't like the way the PLL markets themselves, guess what? Watch the NLL. Like they are the definition of like we do not think about you.
well, so my biggest issue is they get mad that the PLL does a good job by themselves. The NLL is fucking like huge as far as the amount of teams, players, like fans.
Right.
Like they have a huge following, but the NLL's biggest hiccup and fall has always been they suck at marketing themselves. They're never on. They like the games aren't super accessible. They're a little more accessible now, but like the PLL's biggest thing is the games are easy to watch right on ESPN Plus, and their social media and just marketing in general is awesome. And if the NLL just did more of that, people would watch more of it. But like they get all hurt about it. It's like, dude, just because it has less teams and less players and probably less fans doesn't mean that it's not kicking your fucking ass in media and TV coverage. Like that.
They ride, and I'll give them this. They ride the Buffalo Bandits harder than anybody ever because Buffalo's fan base is so fucking ridiculous and rampant. And I want to go to a game there so bad. And they actually feel like a real pro sports team the way that like Ian McKay, Josh Byrne, they all live in Buffalo. They like do shit in Buffalo. The Buffalo people take them serious. And I know that from like my friends. But like the rest of the NLL just rides those coattails so goddamn hard that it's so annoying sometimes.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think a Crease dive field trip to Key Bank to catch a Bandits game would be a good idea in the future. Buffalo's such a sick place. Yeah. You can just get fucking waffle for like $35.
I feel like those aren't going to make a stand about how box lacrosse is the purest form. They're just going to be like, let's booze up and watch some lax.
The only reason they play box lacrosse is because it fucking snows in Canada like fucking 465 days of the year.
But I think we're missing my biggest qualm with bringing up this segment isn't even the fact, like, could the NLL do more marketing themselves? Surely. Like, I think that's totally, like, absolutely they could. I think having so many games on ESPN Plus now, like, if you want to watch it, you can watch it this season. And the games are great. Like, the game itself is awesome. The NLL could do a better job marketing, but I get, like, you just have so many guys who, you know, they aren't necessarily, like, jumping at the gate to market themselves. It's not even the league. It's not the sport. It's the fans. That's the biggest hiccup right now is just the annoying fans on Twitter. And they cannot talk about their sport without starting it off. And maybe it's rage baiting at this point. And maybe I'm falling right into the trap. Maybe they know right now that the best way to get more people to talk about box lacrosse is by rage baiting the Americans, shit talking to start it off. They get us in the door, and now I'm fucking trapped in here. They Trojan horse me with their shitting on lacrosse, calling it field lacrosse, calling it hopscotch. So maybe I'm the idiot. Maybe it's working for them. Maybe I'm giving them a little bit too much credit for that one. But
I have one more thing.
It's really just the fans, and I'll never really understand them. I'm afraid. Go ahead.
Two things is one, I'm on the record that I don't want to do this podcast full year round because of the NLL fans. I was ready to get into box lacrosse, but before the fans, I realized were insufferable. What was the other thing I was going to say? And then also the PLL. Talk about free marketing. Legitimately, the PLL helps market the NLL, and the NLL does nothing for the PLL. The way that the PLL markets, like the chaos and Josh Byrne and McKay and how they did it with Dane Smith or whatever, like that got me as someone that did not like box lacrosse or wasn't interested in watching it at all. It got me being like, I should check this out.
Yeah.
The NLL just like throwing players in the PLL before, or the MLL, I would never think about watching their league. It's like they should be on their hands and knees thanking the PLL every day for marketing their players and their personalities.
Yeah,
hands and knees.
Maybe I don't know.
And that's just my experience. I'm not going to say it's everybody's experience. That's just mine.
Yeah, I don't know how much they're like marketing them as NLL.
They're not.
No. I'm saying the PLL. Like,
I'm saying they're not.
Yeah, so I'm saying like the PLL's marketing their own players, and their own players just happen to also be like, it's not like they're being like, here NLL, like I'm going to market Josh Byrne for you, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows, hey, make sure you watch him in the winter too, and playing for the Buffalo Bandits. You can watch him on ESPN, so it's not like they're like giving them like that public, like it's just like they're doing their job of marketing, and that there's a trickle down for that for sure. Because then if you become like a huge Josh Byrne, Ian McKay, chaos guy, like you're naturally going to gravitate towards watching the Bandits play.
But what about this? Like when the Chaos really were, and I'd say it was the first couple of years of the league, right? And they're on TV. And you got Boyle, you got Kark. They always talked about the box background. So not like RJ and Vrabel and the social media team at the PLO pumping up the box across, but I think the announcers during the actual games would talk about all their box background.
Yeah, I would just say for the NLL, like there would just need to be more guys who go front. Like there need to be more Tom Schreiber. So you get like Schreiber, you get Matt Rambo, who's had success in the NL. Like you would just need more guys to where it's like they're field guys, and we're getting them. Like we're getting those guys. It's happening, and it's happening a lot faster now than it was before, where you just need more guys to make the transition from field to box. And then, the announcers being like, yeah, like clearly like his field background has given him such and such advantage while playing here indoors. And then that's just where you got to figure out that's where, okay, once you get more field players going into box, are their announcers going to be able to say that, or are they going to, be the same thing as the anonymous Canadian, Twitter users that are saying, well, this fucking pussy, he's a fucking jerk off playing field, but now that he's playing in Canada, he's one of our, now he's tough. Like we toughened him up for you. We had him playing real sports instead of hopscotch.
Speaking of box and field, the mesh between the two is obviously sixes, right? And that's the last Olympics we just watched without sixes. I had a nightmare scenario that popped into my brain, right? I need to know when the gold medal game is for sixes lacrosse. Because could you imagine that sixes was one of the last events? And I know how dirty Canada is going to be at sixes. We know how dominant they were at the World Games in like 2022. Could you imagine the shit that lacrosse would get if we lost to Canada and got silver, and we somehow lost the gold medal count?
Wow, that'd be so like the same spot.
Where, could that kill the sport?
Yeah, that would be.
So I will say we are at we're in a tough spot because the Gen Pop, I don't think that they understand like how nasty Canada is at lacrosse, right? Like they think Canada, they think hockey, and then maybe a couple NBA players. Like, but they don't know that Canada is filthy, not only in lacrosse in general, but like especially when it comes to sixes, they have such a leg up on us just because of box. So I think like that's really gonna, like everyone's just gonna think that it's a bunch of guys from Baltimore. Their dads are lawyers, and they're gonna go over to the Olympics and just like beat the brakes off of everybody, and they're not gonna realize that Canada is actually absolutely grotesque. So I think that really what needs to happen over the next 4 years is like I think we just need to start to like kind of put the red flags and the warnings out there to the general population. Like, hey, lacrosse is coming to the Olympics. Guess what? Canada's like fucking like we have 4 years to kind of educate the normal sports fans of the world that Canada is sick at lacrosse. That way, we have 4 years to kind of figure things out. So I'm not handing over the gold medal just yet. It's probably pretty likely.
I agree.
We have 4 years to make sure that that's not as big of a letdown as it would be if it happened today.
Yeah, we do have Liam Intiman, so
we also have 4 years, and we have Kirst. We have 4 years to get our media credentials in order because
we do have CJ Kirst.
Yes, and Colin and Net. But we have 4 years to get our credentials in order to make sure we're boots on the ground for that gold medal.
Going
because there won't be a world I live in where we talk this much lacrosse and I know Jordie has to be there. Doogs has to be there. I just need to be holding on to their coattails there. The hour, the time they put in, they deserve to be there. Again, just let us know where we submit the stuff for the credentials. Crease dives in.
I also have one more nightmare scenario.
Oh no.
What if, like, you watch like handball? Did you guys watch any like obscure sports during the Olympics?
Yeah.
What if,
Yeah,
like,
so
what if there's just a
handball.
dialogue? What if
What's
there's
up?
just a dialogue? What if there's just a dialogue that like people are watching lacrosse, like, wait, shit, lacrosse is really cool. Like, I love this format.
And it like blows up and the PLL turns into sixes. That's not right. Don't say that.
So I don't think that would ever be like, I think like
Hopefully, it gets people to watch more of like the PLL and
Or there
whatnot.
could just be 2 leagues. The PLL could also have 2 leagues.
So here's what I will say. So I don't follow rugby nearly. I don't follow rugby at all. I don't really get rugby, but like I appreciate rugby, but I just don't know it. So I know like sevens is now like a really popularized version of like, but I don't know, like, has that overtaken? I guess we'd have to. Are either of you rugby guys?
Yeah, sure.
No, but I wish I was. But I know that.
You want me to be? I will be. You want to start a podcast about it?
Yeah. So this is called the. I don't even know any rugby terms. But so I don't know like what happened to make sevens such, like, was it the Olympics that turned it, or I don't know what it was, but so sevens to me is like really the only, like, I don't know, I guess like Australian football, I guess, is that rugby? So I guess it's a little bit different. Either way, what I'm saying is like it kind of happened there where sevens is now like a really popular version of rugby. I don't know enough about actual rugby to tell you what the difference is. So that is like it could happen where, everyone's like, wow, this is sick, like cool. And then more countries get involved on it. And then, more and more countries would, for them, sixes is really all they know because of the Olympics. So it could happen. It would be great though, if that's like, as really the only thing that can happen. And luckily I just don't see it being the case. We just can't fall into the same trap as breakdance. So like if there's any country out there that like actually fucking sucks dick at lacrosse, we can't let them in just out of like out of the kindness of our hearts, because we can't have what happened to breakdancing and that Australian chick Ray Gun.
That was
like
crazy.
We can't have one team come in and just make a complete mockery out of the entire game, and then everyone be like, oh, this was a joke the whole time, because that breakdancing's already out of the 2028 Olympics.
I saw
all
that.
Because of one chick.
Is it really?
Yeah.
They got one and done.
One and done. Yeah, I mean, dude, you can't have the entire world be like, what the fuck is this? Dude,
I
can
didn't
you
know
imagine being
that. That's
dude,
so
I don't know if you could attribute one person to the death of an entire, it's hard to call breakdancing a sport to begin with, but I don't know if you can give one person, like put one person on the death certificate for an entire sport the same way that you could Ray Gun, the Australian breakdancer.
I don't think breakdance sport, but I did think that it was gonna be like kind of sick, because I assumed there'd be like crazy like breakdancers. And the only fucking clip I keep seeing is of that one girl. And I'm like, dude, there has to have been like cool stuff going on and like cool dancers, and none of it is making its way to my feed because of that one girl. And it's just, yeah, it's tough look for the sport of breakdancing. I feel for you guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we can't just like can't figure, like, there can't be a random country that just like sneaks through the qualification process who can barely catch and throw.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Cool. And anything else? Should we go back towards the PLL?
Yeah.
Trade deadline. Before we get into the final week of the season, trade deadline did come and go. A little bit of a lackluster trade deadline day. We did get like the Ryan Conrad trade. I'm going to consider that a trade deadline trade, right? It happened kind of the week of, so that's the trade deadline move. So Ryan Conrad getting moved from the Water Dogs over to the Whip Snakes, came in, made an immediate impact for the Whips, 4 points. So great move by the Whips. I mean, Ryan Conrad, sick player. I think anyone right now could benefit from a change of scenery from the Water Dogs, just kind of get, a little bit of taste of hope back in their life after dropping so many 1 goal, 1 possession games. So huge for Ryan Conrad, getting himself into a spot where he can do some damage into the playoffs. The only move though made on actual trade deadline day was Jackson Morrill going to the Archers for a third round draft pick. third round draft pick. So maybe a little bit of a lackluster, but I feel like that's a trade deadline day in like all sports always gets so hyped up leading up to it. Everyone's always talking like, oh, this could be a year where things like where we have blockbusters left and right. And like, you better stay by your phone the entire day. Like you don't want to miss a big trade going down. And then all of a sudden the trade deadline comes and you're like, wait a minute, like nothing happened. So PLL just kind of falling right in line with every other league with that one. Your thoughts on the Conrad trade, your thoughts on Jackson Morrill getting moved over to the Archers, your thoughts on trade deadline in general.
Boring trade deadline. Like the Morrill trade tells me a lot of Matt Moore's health and what the Archers think that his timeline will be. And I think the Conrad trade was one of the best trades, I'll say it, PLL history.
Wow.
I would say in sports history.
I would say that it beats anything that anyone on Box Lacrosse Twitter has ever done.
The Conrad, I think the Whip Snakes, if I wasn't so loyal to my Boston Cannons, I think the Whip Snakes are so dangerous right now. I think adding a guy like him just adds more to the danger. They're my pick to win it besides the Boston Cannons to win the championship. They're hitting their stride. They're similar to the Water Dogs where they've been around championship weekends so much that these guys have been there. You still got Rambo, who might not be putting up the same Rambo numbers he always has, but Rambo is an absolute threat with the ball. So watch out for those Whip Snakes going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at where the Whips and I don't know. We're obviously not in the locker room. We're not talking to coaches, so I don't know like what the internal feeling of the Whip Snakes but when they go into that, they sandwich the All-Star break with a couple of losses, right? The loss right before All-Star break, the loss coming out of All-Star break. I think that put them at 2-4 on the year. And that was a time where we'll probably have to go back a few episodes, re-listen to what we said. But I feel like the three of us probably all, we were probably all saying that the Water Dogs were going to kind of figure it out. Mm-hmm. I was early to say that they wouldn't, but I was still probably of the belief that you can string together a few good wins and get themselves going, and that the Whips were dead, right? 2-4, couple losses in a row, and then since then you rattle off 4 wins. You bring in a guy like Ryan Conrad, which is going to add just an automatic. We saw it production wise, adding an automatic amount of juice to that team, but also kind of gives everyone in that locker room a sense of like, all right, like we're going for this. Like we're loading up. We got a huge piece that's going to help us out in the playoffs. Like we're winning 4 in a row. Like we're going for this thing. I think it could also really benefit them. I don't know. I don't think that there's really a way. Oh no, there's not, because they don't play this weekend. So they have, I think it's perfect for them that they have their bye this week, but that they don't have a bye for the quarterfinals, because then, you kind of get more of a chance to get Ryan Conrad kind of in that system. You win on Monday, quick turnaround. You play that following Saturday, feeling good about yourself. Like, I think that the Whips are in a really good spot to put themselves playing for the championship again.
I think that one, if they had Tucker Dordovic, that they would be. I'm with Nest 100%. But I also think,
real quick, shout out to Tucker Dordovic. Thoughts and prayers on that.
Yeah, seriously,
Jesus.
But I think the Whips. So the way that it's going to shake out. I mean, we don't even have to go over the Denver games because it was kind of a snooze fest. But if you look at the standings, the Cannons, if they win this weekend, they most likely get the 3 seed, right? But if they lose, then the Whips kind of get that 3 seed. Now, I don't know how it's going to shake out. I'm going to pull the Cannons. That's the ticket that I have heaviest for them to win. So I'm a Cannons guy from here on out. But if there's a team besides the Cannons, in my opinion, and this isn't like breaking news, but I think the Whips are very, very equipped to beat the Atlas, and they already have before. I think that attack line sets up nicely against the Atlas defense, which is very formidable. I mean, like, you could just see the way that McCarr, the way that Adler, the way that they've like really came on in this sophomore year. And I think some rookies take a dip. These sophomores had no slump. Pressler's looking like a genius. Rex Road matches up with Feed very nicely with some players. So I don't know, but I think that's the Rambo size and Zed size.
And just historically speaking, for some reason, the Whip Snakes always just
can't
they
count
have the
them out.
Atlas number.
Yeah.
Well, but they also have the Atlas number. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a pretty one-sided, and like it's all completely different rosters. Like the turnaround, but for some reason, Whips just they have that number on them.
And just one quick call out is, again, it's fucking so funny that when you look at the number one seed in the West, Atlas, number one seed in the West, East, Atlas, West, Outlaws, two worst teams in the league last year were those two. And I've said this in years past. I think it might have even been last year with it was last year with the Cannons. I mean, just like how quickly you could go from worst to first in this league is crazy. But shout out.
Yeah, I don't like talking about that too much because I'm big on the Fire Tierney train. So I think that all that conversation does is just give him another year.
We had a discussion about this last week that you would have liked.
You think they should get rid of him, Jordie? Just quick tab.
I think, he's done so much for the game. It's tough to see the legacy kind of go out like this. Like there's kids out there that probably don't know too much about Bill Tierney at Denver, kids who probably don't know too much about Bill Tierney at Princeton. And all they're going to know is Bill Tierney being a loser in the PLL. And I think that Bill Tierney is just way too important to the history of the sport of lacrosse for him to have his legacy go out like that. So for the sake of his own legacy, move him upstairs, make him, put him up in management or something like that. But
I'm on the take that he's too old to have a rebuild. So like if they do stick with him, they have to run it back.
Yeah, and like I wouldn't really mind running it back with the roster.
Agreed.
The roster's great.
Okay,
the roster's won a championship. The roster has lost the championship. They've been in the last two. The roster's great.
Now you have the number one pick.
Now you have the number one pick, but like something, there was like one variable this whole year with the Water Dogs. It was a coaching change. So kind of just shows you what went wrong this year. I don't know. Again, I don't want people being like, oh, Bill Tierney's best coach ever. Like, don't disrespect the guy. No, I think that he's so much the best coach in the history of lacrosse that it's almost better for him to stop coaching the PLL, because the longer he sticks around here, the more people are going to think of him as a loser.
Yeah. Jordie, also, I do think, and I was big on this last year, and I think you were too, about Pressler's coaching style coming into the PLL, how I didn't think it was going to work. And I kind of took a victory lap that it didn't work. He's a hard out. See how he kind of adjusted in year two. I do think it's possible for Tierney to do the same thing.
Yeah, but he's just he's so old, man. It's hard to get old people to change.
I would say
I know that people can change.
I would say actually that the Water Dogs have to do less to become good than the Atlas had to do.
100%.
Yeah, I'm not breaking news there, but I just think the turnaround, like, I don't even know if it's necessarily like a turnaround rather than just like stop losing fucking 1-goal games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's, I don't know. I talked about this ad nauseum. I'm over it, but I wish I didn't bring up Bill Tierney's name in this podcast. What were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about, so how the two worst teams could end up being the two teams with the bye. And that, again, just pisses me off the way that this playoff format goes, because, like, you shouldn't – they shouldn't be the number 2 seed. The Outlaws, or I guess however this ends up shaking up, it could really be any of them, right? Like, I think that there's a way that this weekend works out where the Outlaws, Archers, and Chaos could all be 5-5. So I think Redwoods would need to beat the Archers would need to beat the Outlaws, Chaos would need to win their game against who they play. They play against the Cannons this week, so they could all be 5-5. And I guess depending on how the scoring differential works out, one of those 5-5 teams would be the second seed in the playoffs. Not the first seed in the Western Conference, the second seed in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, Doogs, do you see where that's so dumb? Like, do you not see how having a team that's 5-5 as the second seed in the playoffs above what could be a 7-3 Cannons team?
I see it, but I think that comes back to the Eastern Conference is just so much better than the Western Conference, in my opinion.
Right, which is why they should have two different playoffs.
I don't agree with it with 8 teams. Like just the concentration of I don't know. I don't know how to.
8 teams does make it tough. Like I do see your point. Like
because if you do the Western Conference, okay, if you do the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference playoffs, I don't think that with 8 now, if we're going to 12 and plus, I could see it a little bit more to have an Eastern Conference, Western Conference. But I think that I think with the Eastern Conference, you can make the argument that the 3 best teams in the league are in it.
I agree.
Yeah, no, you don't have to make the argument. Like, that is the argument. Like, that's the case.
Right. So I'm saying more like I would much rather if I think it's
so yes, it does help out the Atlas to where they can or like whoever. So it would work in the Cannons. So if the Cannons are the 3 seed, right, they would probably still
play the Outlaws.
They would still no, I don't know.
Hold on, I got to bathroom. Keep going.
Yeah. Either way, like it would help like the Atlas because they would get a chance to play against a Western Conference team earlier, and that would help them get into the championship. So it helps out the Eastern Conference as well. I just if a team is 5-5 and they go in there as the second seed, Ness, and I know that you're on my side, so I know I don't need to do too much just yapping up here to get you on my side and to see the light. I don't know what Dukes is. Dukes just loves devil's advocate, and I hate the devil.
Yeah, I think it's so. Like now, I totally agree with your take, but it does get like so. It is so hard with the 8 teams. Like
right, that's why I just think you didn't have to do East and West. Like you could just done just a straight up top 6 teams get in, bottom 2 don't, and realistically, would it work out the same way that it would now? Like, yeah, sure. With the Water Dogs and Redwoods, but then
I think
that would give the Cannons the 2 seed and just kind of help them out a little bit more.
The East and West is cool in like theory, and I get a lot of the main sports in America do that, but I do think 8 teams is too small to make it kind of work. Where like it'd almost be better if it was just like the standings were just 1 through 8, and then it's top 6 teams get in, and you're not playing the same other 3 teams every year. I know it's going to build rivalries. I know it'll be great for the future.
Right. I agree with that.
Because of the 8 teams, you're almost not handcuffing yourself. But like it makes more sense when there's more teams in a conference to do this. So I
think that they were forcing like once they went to like giving people cities, they wanted to go to conferences at the same time.
Yeah.
And I do think that in some sense, like right, like maybe the Cannons and the Atlas are like 1 and 2 best teams in the league, or it's whipstakes. I mean, Atlas whipstakes. I do like rewarding the top team from the conference because you usually could make the argument in most years, maybe even this year, like if the Archers should still get the 1 seed, Outlaws might have it, but like you could probably make the argument that they're a top 3 seed and that you should be rewarded for being the best team in that conference.
I agree.
I just think that with 8 teams, it's just
I think rewarding them with a bye is enough as opposed to then the second seed in the playoff. Like that just it really screws over really like the 3rd seed in the East, who's better than right now. So 1 team's getting screwed there. I think rewarding them with a bye and not giving them the 2nd overall seed in the playoffs is enough, but whatever. It is what it is. I think we got these 4 games coming up here. It's not really a ton of implication, I guess, in the East. So you could get the Cannons to jump over the Whipsnakes in the standings, which would then give them the 3rd overall seed in the playoffs. But a lot still battling out in the West. So, I mean, Water Dogs, they're dead. They're kaput. We buried a hole in the yard, threw them under there. RIP Dogs. The Redwoods, while technically not out. They're at a minus 31 score differential this year. Losers. So Redwoods, regardless of what happens this week, they're not playing in the quarterfinal. So Redwoods, RIP, you dead bitch. But those three other teams in the Western Conference, again, the way it shakes out. So you get first game of the weekend, Redwoods and Archers. You know, it depends. Like, do the Redwoods do they tell themselves that maybe they have a chicken dick's chance of getting in this thing, and do they play their ass off? The Archers, it's going to be the first game of their homecoming, so they're going to have some juice. So it's going to be I can see that being a really good game. I don't, unless it starts to get away from them in halftime, and then in which case the Redwoods are like, all right, like we're definitely out of this thing. There's no need to play anymore. So as long as the Redwoods keep this one close, so if you're watching this right now on YouTube or Rumble, you see the lines that are brought up there. If you're listening on podcast form, we've got the lines brought up here. They are brought to us by DraftKings. Make sure that you gamble responsibly. You're 21 and over in a legal state. But Redwoods and Archers, that first game of the weekend, 8 p.m. in Salt Lake City. Archers on the spread at minus 2.5. That's at a minus 120 value. We've got the over-under on this one at 24. I can see a lot of goals going in here with two teams kind of really fighting for their spots, and one team fighting for their life. And on the money line, we've got my eyes aren't so great right now, but we've got Archers at minus 298 on the money line and Redwoods at plus 220. So, boys, how are we feeling about this first game?
I got Archers minus 2.5 in this one. I just think that the way that the Redwoods would play this could definitely equal up some sloppy defense, in the sense just a lot of risky checks, trying to get takeovers, trying to score a lot of goals, for a lot of twos, which could equal a lot of easy saves into transition. So I'm going Archers minus 2.5.
Redwoods money line. They're fighting for their lives. There's a chance. They know there's a chance. Everyone loves a chance. So I like taking them. A lot of value there. So you never know. Well, maybe they'll win by 20 and they'll end up sneaking into the playoffs.
Yeah, listen, I love, my heart wants Redwoods so bad here, mainly because I want those top three teams in the West to all be 5-5. I think that'll be hilarious. That'll make my point about the playoff situation look even smarter. But at the end of the day, only thing that I really speaking out here to me is going to be the over 24. Kind of the same reason why Doogs was like, I think that there's going to be a lot of riskiness on behalf of the Redwoods. So I think that's going to open up a lot of scoring opportunities for the Archers. I also think it's probably going to open up a lot more scoring opportunities for the Redwoods, where, maybe you're taking shots where earlier in the season you're lacking a little confidence to pull that trigger, but now it's, your backs are against the wall. Who knows if you have it tomorrow, so might as well let that shit fly. So I like the over in that game. The second game, which I can promise you right now, I will not be watching live. It is 10:30 p.m. Eastern. We've got the Boston Cannons taking on the Carolina Chouse. On the spread, we've got Cannons minus 1.5. That's going to be at a minus 135 value. Chaos at plus 1.5 at plus 105. Money line, we've got Chaos plus 145. Cannons are favored at minus 188. Over under on this one, smallest total of the weekend, we've got 22.5. A couple of demons between the pipes on both ends. So not expecting a ton of goals here is Vegas. Go ahead. And so this is a game where the Cannons can lock themselves into that third seed in the playoffs, kind of make their path a little bit easier to get to the championship. The Chaos looking to end their season at 500.
I'm going Cannons. I think this one's going to go under as well, but I'm going to take the Cannons. It's a bounce back game for both, but I think the Cannons are playing for a little bit more.
I like my Cannons, and I actually like the over. I think 22.5 is very low. I know I'm high on both goalies. I'm Kirsch's biggest fan in the world, but I think there's going to be more than 10 goals scored on each side. So with that, I hopefully we'll get over 22.5. But let's go Cannons, baby! It's playoff time, Kirsty.
Yeah, so didn't get a chance to see the Cannons last week. And then did we see the chaos last week? Kind of, maybe, sort of, depending on how you want to say it. They I don't know if I just mixed up my words there, the chaos, but they go down 10-4 to the Outlaws in that game. So both teams with a ton of gas left in the tank after last week. So Cannons didn't play at all. Chaos only put up 4. So at some point you got to get those goals out of your system. So I'm kind of with Ness on this one. I think that Chaos are going to have a bounce back game. That was kind of a embarrassing showing in Denver. So I think that they'll turn that around. And I also think that Cannon's got a lot to play for. So should be a great game. I'm still going to go Cannons money line on that one, but I like a few more goals there than Vegas likes. Going into Saturday, 6:30 p.m., we've got the number 1 seed Atlas taking on the worst team in the league, the Dead Dogs, the Water Dogs. So this game, 6:30 on the spread, the Atlas. Oh shit, Dukes just pulled it away from me. There we go. On the spread, we've got the Atlas minus 2.5, Water Dogs plus 2.5. Both of those are at minus 115. Dukes keeps pulling away the lines for me. We've got on the money line Atlas minus 260, Water Dogs, the Dead Dogs at plus 195. Over under on this one, 26.5. Water Dogs have absolutely not a goddamn thing in the world to play for. Atlas, is there a possible chance that they
clinched? I think.
And their goal differential is just so much more. Like
it's the score differential. This is what I want to say. Why would I not take the Water Dogs? Like I couldn't quit them all year. Why would I stop now? I think that when you look at it, you don't want the Atlas have nothing really to play for. The Water Dogs have nothing to play for, but there's going to be young guys on the Water Dogs that want to prove their worth. There's going to be guys on the Water Dogs that want to prove, like, hey, I deserve to be on this team next year. There are a lot of people playing for contracts. Could be Kieran McCardle's last go. I'm taking the Water Dogs plus 2.5 and money line. Bang it.
I'm so with Dukes. I think it comes down to this. A win is going to feel a hell of a lot better for the Water Dogs than the Atlas. I'm not sure who's going to want it more. I think the Atlas, they want to get a win. But, a win for the Water Dogs is going to just be, the best ride off into the offseason, moral W, have beers. You're not going to – your life's not going to be fucking miserable after the season because you didn't have a good year. You move on. You live your life. But ending it on a W and getting to enjoy that last kind of go-around with the boys when you know it's your last time, that's what they're playing for. Give me everything Dogs. I'm all in on the Dogs this weekend. That might be play of the weekend for Nest.
Listen, I couldn't agree with you guys more in the fact that this is a game where the Water Dogs, you win this one, you feel a little bit, you got guys who are playing hard, trying to prove that they deserve to be on this team. And I'll tell you what, I think that the kind of the anticipation of this game, the buildup of this game of, all right, let's see if the Water Dogs can give us any sign of life here to close out this season. I think it's going to keep growing and growing and growing. And then they're going to roll the ball out, and the Water Dogs are going to get fucking spanked. This is a team that has proven time and time again that it doesn't matter what the situation is, they're going to find a way to lose the game. Right after the All-Star break, you thought, all right, this is a time. They're playing against the Outlaws. Outlaws sink. Team's terrible. Coming out of the play of the All-Star break, you can get your season going around finally. Let's do this thing. They go out there, they lose 15-13, another one-possession game. So it's going to be a one-possession loss, but maybe – now, you know what? This one's going to be a blowout because eventually they're going to realize that they're losing this one and they're just going to give up. So it doesn't matter how good a win would feel for the Water Dogs. They're not going to get it done. Atlas win this one.
I will say one of the craziest things about the Water Dogs is the game that they've lost. I don't even know how many one possession games. I'd say there's probably 2 games that I could think off the top of my head. They probably lost by.
I think 6 of their losses are one possession. I think 5 of them are 1 goals.
And the one that they needed in Baltimore was the biggest stinker of all time.
Oh my God, they needed that so bad.
It was unbelievable.
It was 9-0 at one point. It was just the world was. And Dukes and I were on them. We were on them.
On them.
Responsibly on them and just
on them.
It was almost unfathomable. They did make a run in the second half, which felt awesome for a few minutes there. But yeah, that Saturday in Baltimore, Jordie. We touched on it last week. It is nothing the league. It's not the league's fault. All the games are usually great. It was one of the worst like 2 games I'd ever seen because it was so dominant. Both games started off 7-0. I was fucking so drunk and so pissed and so sweaty, chasing Doogs around like a dog.
Kelly Keegan said in the office how she hates like big, fat, sweaty people, just like big dudes that are sweaty. And I was like, she would fucking hate Nestler at the bar.
Oh, I keep my distance.
I thought of you right away, and I looked at G and I was like, Nestler.
Yeah, just tell her if I ever see her, just be like, he's sorry. Just an apology before it even gets started. Yeah, she would not like me. That's fair.
All right, well, that brings us into the final game of the weekend. We've got the Archers playing the second game of their homecoming. They will be taking on the Outlaws. I mean, this is a game that I guess could then decide the number 1 seed from the Western Conference. So this will be for the second seed overall.
Yeah.
Either way, like Archers could either go into this one at 4-5 and really needing a win. They could go into this one. Yeah, no matter what, they would need to get a win here, even if they're at 4-5 or 5-4. So this is going to be a game for that second seed. This is going to be a big one. This is legitimately a playoff game. Denver, besides a whole winner goes home thing, but Outlaws at +1.5 on the spread, but that's at -135 value. Archers on the spread -1.5 at a +105 value. On the money line, Archers are favored at -135, Outlaws at +105. Over under on this one at 25. So Vegas not giving the Outlaws the respect that they deserve right now as currently the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Does it seem like they're slighting the Outlaws at all, especially taking on the Archers in their second game of the weekend?
No, I think that when it comes down to it, if this is for the playoffs, I'm taking the Archers. Team that's been there before, team that's been through adversity, team that's won championships versus a young core. I'm going to take the Archers at home. And again, like I think Salt Lake City is a pretty good. Obviously, they went there for the way that lacrosse is growing in Utah, and I think that the fans will show out for their Archers. So I'm expecting a good crowd, and I'm expecting the hometown crowd to have the Archers back in a playoff atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm Archers. I think same reason as Doogs. Kind of like when it comes down to it, you got to pick one team to get that seed. And I'm going with the Archers. I think Dobson, when he's on his game, is just so fucking elite. I'm a big fan of McElroy and Denver as well, but I just think Dobson's a little bit more established, been there, and that Archers team can get gelling. So we'll see. It should be a good one. Shout out all the Archer fans out in Utah. Bunch of legends.
Yeah, I will say I will feel significantly better about the playoff format if it's the Archers with the second seed as I would with the Outlaws. Just I feel like just as an organization, and I get like the Outlaws, the previous version iteration of the Denver Outlaws, probably one of the one of the best professional dynasties that we've seen in the field game. But this current iteration coming off of the Chrome and now this Denver Outlaws team, they just don't feel like a team that deserves a bye to me. While the Archers have kind of sputtered around so far this season, like they still, from an organizational standpoint, like seem like it's like I can swallow the pill of the Archers getting a bye and being the second overall seed. So I think like for the sake of me just feeling at ease with everything, I want the Archers in this one. But again, the second game of the weekend, I don't exactly know. I don't know too much about altitude and weather in Salt Lake, so I don't know how much that's going to what I will say is you can't really drink too much beer in Utah, so it's not like the boys are going to really be getting after it the night between the two games. So they should be able to probably just go grab a nice bath, hit up a Theragun. So they'll be feeling fine and rested. If this was any other city, then I'd feel a little bit more nervous for the Archers going into this one. But the fact that you can't really tie one on in Utah definitely bodes well for them.
I'm sure they'll come across some cold ones. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited. I wanted to go this weekend, but I'm going on vacation. I have a buddy who lives in Utah, so maybe he'll end up at the games. Get boots.
There's a jackhammer above me, so I'm going to mute myself.
Well, I'm actually I think that puts us at a good time to wrap this thing up then. So, Ness, behave yourself in Avalon. Doogs, enjoy that jackhammer. Make sure everyone is following us. We are at the Crease Dive on Twitter and Instagram. We are still Crease Dive on TikTok. Make sure you're subscribed to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everything. Tell your friends, tell your family. Final week of the PLL season. We love you guys. We're going to keep it low to high to the day we die. We out.